So legendary gems here in Diablo Immortal, a pretty controversial topic, but I still think are worth ranking. The only people really in this game that absolutely do not want to touch a 1-star gem are people that have spent well over $5,000. 1-star gems are useful for pretty much anyone else. And let's rank these to see which ones are actually worth it, which ones are totally worth passing on. Let's get into it. So the first one here, we got Zon Stone. Increases the duration of your ultimate skills by 16%. Ultimates, as you guys are familiar, if you guys have been playing this game, are pretty rare. So I think this is a completely worthless gem. Not worth touching. It's purely gem powder. Carson's Invigoration here increases the attack speed of your primary attack by 5.5%. It goes up to 16% if you fully max it out, but you kind of got to be a spender to ever get to that point. I think this is pretty much only good on characters that have a good auto attack, with mainly Demon Hunter. This is actually a pretty popular one for Demon Hunter. All other classes, not so much. It's not terrible, but for the most part, Demon Hunter is going to be the main class that uses this, and then other classes, depending on how good your auto attack is, like maybe Barbarian for a single target, I could totally see when you have the Fury, when you have Frenzy, and you're increasing your attack speed up, this will help you ramp up to that maximum amount as fast as possible. So I can see it being pretty good on them. All other classes, probably better options. And we got Defiant Soul. Each time you block an attack, you deal 64% base damage to all nearby enemies. Cannot occur more than once every 20 seconds. So even without an internal cooldown of 20 seconds, this is pretty bad because block chance is pretty rare. Even with the Heliquary boss, you could get extra block chance. It's just not happening enough. And even if you did get a lot of block chance and you're doing all this damage, then it only happens every 20 seconds. So it's still pretty bad. So this is one of the F tier gems for sure. Okay, so Respite Stone decreases all damage you take by 0.55% for every 10% of your life below a maximum, up to a maximum damage decrease of 5.5. In this game, damage decrease is really not ever going to be useful for you in this game. So this is definitely could be replaced by way better options. This is definitely going to be an F tier legendary gem. Then we got Pain of Subjugation here. You deal 5.5% increased damage to enemies suffering loss of control. This is just too specific in effect. Also, if you guys are familiar with Chip of Stone Flesh, figuring out which abilities suffer loss of control and which ones don't in the game that classifies it as such is very difficult. And a lot of times when you would think something would be loss of control, it actually is not even coded as loss of control, so you don't get the bonus, whether it be Chip of Stone Flesh or Pain of Subjugation. I'd say the only class that can really benefit from this is probably Monk, but other than that, you know, I would pass it. And even as a Monk, I would probably pass on this. It's just not good enough. And then Trick Shot Gem, your channeling skills consume energy 8% slower. This is actually a really good gem on classes that actually focus on channeling. So think Barbarian, Wizard, stuff like that actually really have a lot of channeling abilities. This is going to be one of the best gems in the game for you. Definitely consider using Trick Shot Gem. Berserker's Eye, this is the GOAT 1-star gem here. Increases all damage you deal by 5.5%, but also increases the damage you take by 5%. Pretty negligible compared to what you're actually gaining here. Increased damage is awesome. This could be ranked up to rank 10, and then at rank 10, it's 16% additional damage. This is easily the best 1-star gem in the game. Veiled Shot actually has a great video breaking down just how much resonance this is worth, you know, based on how good the effect is. It's just, this is insane. Like people, this is at the beginning when I was saying up to $5,000 because, you know, it takes an incredibly big whale to actually be able to not need this gem, in my opinion. Like, so for example, me, I have a lot of 5-star gems, but this is actually going to give me more damage than a lot of those gems, even though it's a massive drop in resonance. So I can't speak to just how, I can't speak enough on just how good Berserker's Eye is, unless you're a mega Kraken. So Led's Weakening here gains 6% increased damage for 60 seconds after killing an elite monster. So this is another one increasing damage. Like for example, Berserker's Eye increasing damage is great. This is going to be obviously better in situations where you're actually killing elite monsters. Think challenge rifts, farming the open world, stuff like that is going to be really good. In dungeons, PvP, this is completely worthless. So this is a purely PvE gem and in only select parts of PvE. So it definitely goes down in the tier list, but when it's useful, it's actually pretty good, getting that extra damage after you kill an elite enemy. I don't like that because killing the elite monsters is the goal. So unless you're killing elite monsters and then killing elite monsters within that 60-second cooldown or timer when it's up, you're not really gaining too big of a benefit there. So it's definitely like a C tier gem in my opinion, but still a decent effect. Next, we got Mocking Laughter. Your primary attack forces non-elite monsters to hit you, to attack you for 2 seconds. So this is complete trash. This one is definitely a F tier gem. Then we got Everlasting Torment. This is definitely going to be one of the higher like S tier gems in the game here, right below Berserker's Eye. Your critical hits inflict agony, dealing 10% base damage plus 122 every second for 6 seconds. So this is going to scale with your damage, this 122. And then obviously the 10% scales with your base damage. The only drawback to this one is it needs to be critical hits. And you guys are familiar with that critical hit chance in this game is very rare. So trying to get as many good legendary pieces of gear that have critical hit chance on them is going to boost the effects of this ability here. And also just keep in mind that there's a 20-second internal cooldown for this, but still a great gem. One of the more annoying ones in PvP. If you've ever tried to bandage and couldn't, definitely always look up in the top left corner. Make sure your Seeping Bile or Everlasting Torment is not, ticking on you. So very good in pretty much all facets of the game. Really good gem. And then Chain Death increases damage done by your attacks by 1.5 per target hit up to a maximum of 4.5% damage. I'd say this is one of the better gems for sure. There is better options out there, Everlasting Torment, Berserker's Eye, but it deserves to be in that kind of A to B tier status. Increasing the damage, yes, there's gems that increase your damage by more, and so you probably replace that with some 2-star gems, stuff like that, but still a pretty good gem. Increasing damage is always good. Now we got Nightmare Wreath. You have a 10% chance when you defeat an enemy to cause other nearby enemies to flee in fear for 0.8 seconds. I feel like this one is actually a detriment to you. This one is actively worse. Like, what's worse than F tier? Like, it's doing an effect that's doing the enemies a favor, because when you kill someone, you don't want them to flee. You want them to stay there, and so you can kill them easier too. So this one's like a negative gem for you. I mean, yes, you do get resonance and combat rating, but other than that, this is a pretty terrible gem. Next, we have the Black Rose. Each time you are attacked, you have a 10% chance to summon vines that immobilize the attacker for 1.1 seconds. So this one is interesting in the sense that for PvP, I can see this being actually pretty good. But in PvP, all your effects are reduced down to a third. So all these effects that we talked about here are reduced by quite a bit. So even though it's a pretty annoying effect in a PvP scenario, in PvP, things like resonance, it really matters. So these 1-star gems don't give much resonance, and their effects are reduced by 1/3. Even though it's reducing everyone's effect by 1/3, the point is that resonance is the important thing in PvP. So stacking a very niche 1-star gem with the sole intention of PvP is not the greatest in my opinion, because you really want to have those bigger resonance numbers for PvP. So it can work out, especially if you are a free-to-play light spender playing like a monk or a crusader, and you want to provide some extra CC. I can see that being a thing. And you're like, why does resonance even matter for me? I'm a free-to-play light spender. I'm not going to get that much resonance anyway. Okay, I think that's a fair argument there for Black Rose actually being pretty good. And then we got Freedom and Devotion, increases the duration of your summons by 8%. The later effects on this is going to increase the damage of your summons by 0.75%. This one definitely is going to be better for classes that actually care about their summons. I would say Necromancer is the obvious one. I think Barbarian could actually use it too. You could get 2 summons there. If you have Echoing Shade, that's a legendary, or that's a 5-star gem. So if you have Echoing Shade, that's another summon for you. The turrets for Demon Hunter, those are actually coded as summons too. I know monks have some summons as well. So there's quite a few classes that could use this. It's just if you don't have any better options and your class was summoning, then this would actually be a pretty good gem for you. So that's the list here. Those are all the 1-star gems. So, all right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this list. To recap, the main ones you're going to be looking out for is going to be Berserker's Eye and Everlasting Torment. Trickshot gem if you're a channel class, but all the other gems are kind of like a step below those gems there. I'm going to be ranking the 2-star legendary gems here later on today. Be sure to be subscribed for that one to drop here soon. And with